So 2 months of preparation have gone by. We've done a ton of work to the airplane. We've got the de-icing kit put on. We had the airplane repainted. We did all kinds of maintenance to it. Anything that we could think of that might possibly need attention, we looked at, and we made sure that it was good to go. The last step was to get all our gear finally together and into the airplane. We had done some mock loadings where we had assembled gear on the floor. We weighed it. We wanted to make sure that we'd be within the weight and balance limitations of the airplane, which we were safely. But now it was time to finally actually put it in the airplane and get it loaded. So that was sort of one of the first surprises for me, was when we actually put it in the airplane and started putting things in their respective locations where we thought they should go, we used up a lot more space in the airplane than what I expected. We were fully loaded, fully fueled, ready to go. We got to the airport quite early. There was a bit of a brisk wind out of the south, so we taxied down to the north end of the runway and full power, and off we went. We had a very uneventful flight over the Canadian Shield and into Moosonee, and you don't need to go very far from Steinbach and the scenery changes significantly. First leg of the trip, we made it to Moosonee, Ontario. So far, the only casualty is a GoPro that fell off the wing on the way over. We just fueled up here. We're not that far from home yet, and the price of avgas is already doubled. So this isn't going to be a cheap trip, and we knew that, but it's already costs are rising. Landing in Kuujjuaq was sort of our first real true northern experience. We could see on final coming in past the town that things were starting to look different. The houses didn't look as North American as we would expect. They started to have a more of a distinguished northern look. Some interesting colors being used, very simple architecture, and a more simple looking community from the air. This was one of the stops, and we knew this ahead of time that there would be a few stops like this, but this was our first stop where we weren't going to get fueling service. The first thing that happened was the fuel guy asked us if we wanted Jet A in our airplane, and of course we don't. We wanted avgas. So right away, this presented a bit of a problem because now he had to go and haul a barrel of fuel out of the snowbank. So he gets this barrel of fuel, he rolls it up to the airplane, uprights it, and the first thing we have to do is chip all the ice away from the bung. So ice, which turns into water in a fuel system, is not good, especially when you're about to set out over your first water crossing. So right away, we're a little bit on edge watching this. We're checking to make sure, like, is the fuel any good? How long has it been in storage? Does it have any contamination in it? All those things. The next thing was, and we were prepared for this, was we had to pump our own fuel. So he sets the barrel up and walks away. Now the rest is our job. In anticipation of this, I had bought myself a nice lightweight plastic barrel pump with a crank on it, and I had even tested it in the hangar. I wanted to make sure that this pump was going to work. So now here we are in Kuujjuaq, Quebec, starting to pump fuel from the barrel. The pump is cold, the seals are cold, and this thing started leaking like a sieve. There was fuel spraying everywhere. It's the first real grind of the journey, and probably the first moment where I kind of had this thought of, oh boy, what have I gotten myself into? And where are we going to go from here? So that was kind of the first real grind of the journey, but it worked out. We managed to get all the fuel out of the barrel into the fuel tanks of the airplane, and magically it replaced exactly how much fuel we needed in the airplane. So we made our way into the terminal in Kuujjuaq because we needed to suit up. We were about to set off on our first overwater crossing. We didn't really know for sure how much of it would be open water. We suspected quite a bit would be frozen, which has a little extra margin of safety. At least if the water's frozen and you have to put down on it, chances are the ice is going to be thick enough to hold you, and you don't have to be submerged in water and worry about a life raft. But nonetheless, we didn't know for sure, so we had to suit up, and that was sort of the first opportunity to really get in these suits and live in them for a period of time. Landing in Iqaluit was a really welcome sight. It was the end of a long day. It was just dusk, so there was still enough light to see the city and how things looked in the area. And again, Iqaluit had a really distinct northern look to it. You could just tell by looking at the buildings that we're in a different land here. Things look different. You could see snowmobiles driving down the streets in the city. This is how they commute. And on short final, we even saw a dog sled going by underneath us. So that was pretty cool. We were quite elated as we taxied up to the FBO. They marshaled us in. There was a lot of snow on the ground. They had had a snowfall the day before, but they marshaled us in great, and the team there was really, really welcoming of us. They were really interested in our airplane, in the flight, in our transatlantic plans, in the One Life project. We made some friends there. It was really, really cool to meet those people and get to know them a little bit. So the next morning, we got up fairly early again. We had breakfast, and the first surprise of the day was a weather system that had come in that we maybe hadn't really been expecting. And so first of all, there was snow coming down. It was actually decently heavy enough. So we headed to the airport and we thought, let's check and see what things look like when we get there, and we'll assess the situation from there. Now if you look out the window, it's not the greatest.
A bit of a snowstorm going on.
But planes are still moving, and we're going to do this.
Yeah, so today's flight, we'll take a look on the map here. So this is where we're at, Iqaluit. And we're going to be going to the capital of Greenland, which is Nuuk.
Right over here.
Right over there.
What's the weather looking like, Luke?
I think this is probably the worst of it right here. A bit of a snowstorm, obscured ceiling and whatnot. But I think about 100 miles out of Iqaluit should be opening up. We're going to be at 15,000 feet, enjoying some pretty spectacular views of some cold water.
Right on.
So I think we're all set.
Okay, flight plan is filed. We're ready to go.
Let's do this.
After about 2 hours of flying over water, things have been going seamlessly, working just great. We're at 17,000 feet. We're making good time. Finally, on the screen, we could see the first little bit of land. It shows up on my screen a little bit before you can actually see it visually. You can just see a sliver of green coming up on the horizon. And that's such an incredibly comforting feeling.
Nuuk information. Operating Monsieur, 4 mile left base for 05.
Charlie Monsieur, roger. No traffic on runway 05, so make 13 knots.
Operating Monsieur, thank you.